everybody, it's Tyler from Valve News Network, and as always, I am joined with my podcast pal, Jonathan Ewalds, and today is the December 2018 episode of the Valve Ketchup Podcast. Okay, so we have a whole list of everything that took place in the month of December, and so much stuff happened this month. It felt like an entire year's worth of news crammed into a single month. Well, yeah, why don't you explain? Start us off with our first story of the day.
I don't know. CSGO Battle Royale came out. Like, that already felt like it was months ago, but it was only 3 weeks ago.
It was only, December 6th is the day it came out. I'm going to take the lead on this one. So, Danger Zone. Counter-Strike Global Offensive Danger Zone is one of the largest updates that CSGO has seen in a very long time. It wasn't an operation. I wanted it to be an operation, but instead it was just kind of a change in... what would it be? Like, the ideals of the team, the ideals of the Counter-Strike Global Offensive team seem to have changed significantly over the course of 2018, and Danger Zone was an excellent way to cap it off. Now, obviously, the update itself came with the free-to-play stuff added in as well. The Counter-Strike Global Offensive is now a free-to-play game, which means all three of Valve's major multiplayer games you can download and play for free. CSGO, TF2, and Dota 2 are all free to play, and alongside the free to play update, we did get this Battle Royale game mode, and it's fantastic. I am a little biased. This is one of the biggest news stories I've been covering for what feels like 2 years.
I think it is 2 years.
It was around the first time we saw CSGO Survival Mode, which became Danger Zone, was in October of 2016 when we had the Inferno remake release. There was a script file related to VBSP for some reason in the proto buffs that showed off a couple of maps. One of them called Canals and the other one called Survival_Island. I don't know if it's exactly what ended up being Black Site. However, Survival Island itself had some leaks throughout the last 2 years. I remember almost exactly a year before the game mode came out, that soundscape file leaked. You remember that?
Yeah, and I made that little map that
and
showed
Jack made a little map that used the soundscapes, and we had that video. And yeah, it's really, really cool to be able to finally see something that I've been actively reporting on through leaks, and then it actually coming true.
Is that the first time? Is it?
I don't know if that's it might actually be the first time. The way Valve works is they just throw spaghetti at walls every day. There should be a t-shirt that's Valve Offices, and it's just Jeep Barnett chucking spaghetti at a wall. And because nothing ever friggin' sticks, they never ever finish anything. And so it's so rewarding and fulfilling to me to have a story and a thing that I have been covering for so long happen. It's one of the best things that happened this month.
It was interesting. I looked into the files like after it came out, and pretty much none of the stuff that we've seen in the leaks is actually there. It all got renamed and reshuffled, which was, I don't know if they did that on purpose or what.
They probably did that on purpose, but they did end up leaking stuff. I promised a Danger Zone data mine video, and what ended up happening was I found a lot of stuff that didn't need to be put in a video, like what eventually became the snowballs and the return of militia. That, what ended up happening was a lot of what I found in the data mine was a lot of stuff for the holiday update. However, I did find some stuff, and I do want to talk about one of them. We have discussed this a little bit. There's another Danger Zone map that we already have evidence of. There are possibly two, definitely one. We don't have the map itself, but we have a radar overview for what would become a new Danger Zone map based around the aesthetics of the new Dust 2 remake, which also happens this year. I want to stress that CSGO friggin' is killing it. They're doing so much stuff. And there's evidence of the team recently receiving a lot of new people joining. Partly that might have something to do with the fact that Danger Zone is being treated like a separate game in Valve's offices. Danger Zone has its own team. As far as I'm aware, you have Doug Wood, who's pretty much in charge of all of that. And we do know about XL Enclave. HR Massive, I'm fairly sure through my own data mining, is Black Site. It might have just been renamed late in development.
Yeah, so that memeans Black Site had like 3 names.
Survival Islands, Massive, and then Black Site. Going free to play, obviously there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be like a 6 to 12 month transitionary period where you have to deal with the new influx of cheaters. However, John McDonald and his friggin' AI driven Overwatch system is is kicking ass.
Are we gonna mention how we all bamboozled ourselves?
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, and then obviously one of the big things that happened this month was in Black Site, if you stood in a specific room, if you stood in the third apartment room, which was blocked off from the outside, you had to go through room 2 into a secret passage and stand in the third room of this apartment building in Black Site, and you stood in front of these computers, this sound effect started playing, which was hard-coded into the soundscape for just this one specific area. And this sound effect was, it sounded like a number station. And the number station, you had this woman going like, Alpha, Charlie. And you decoded what this woman was saying, and it came out as, this was a triumph, I'm making a note here, huge success.
And, people, we all kind of wondered if that was...
Everyone
wondered.
This was an ARG, because... it's a Portal reference. They announced Portal 2 through an ARG. So what ended up happening was that day, I think it was December 9th, was spent on Game Detective's Discord server and my Twitch page. I had how many viewers that day?
3,000.
It was a lot. And we were just trying to decode this puzzle, and a lot of leads were found. Okay, there's numbers on top of buildings. There's the fact that rats are involved. You have a bunch of different... it was so much...
The weird thing was those decals.
Yeah.
That had, the colored circles and the
there were
things,
these test-related decals that were put into the files in the update of Danger Zone that were not used in the actual Danger Zone map that was released or anywhere in the game mode in terms of its overlays. And it seemed like there was a puzzle to be solved. And tons of people got excited. That video hit 100,000 views in an hour. My live stream was going crazy. PC Gamer, PC Games N, it was trending on Reddit. Everyone was excited. And it's really crazy to see, everybody, I feel like I've hit a ceiling in terms of the amount of viewership that I'll be able to get solely off of doing Valve News, right? But when Valve actually does something that people are really, really interested in, i.e. a new friggin' Portal game, everybody comes out of the woodwork. And it's like, okay, yeah, so there's very much demand. For a new traditional Valve experience. Everybody's down for that.
I hope that Valve noticed that. I hope
I'm sure they realized. But what ended up happening was, so there was this huge search. The data mine was so many cool people were involved. There were a couple fake leads made by community members, and it was a lot of fun for that small period of time where we were trying to figure stuff out.
But you know what no one did?
Email Gabe Newell.
Yeah, no one did that, and then when someone eventually did, everyone said he faked it, and I felt really bad for that guy.
Yeah, so
but he didn't.
Some guy, a random guy, emailed Gabe Newell, and Gabe responded "That's just an Easter egg," and he CC'd in Edo McGall. This was on a Sunday, by the way. And Gabe, everybody was trying to pick apart this email message, this picture of an email. No, it's not over. No, this is an ARC. Everyone wanted it to be an ARC, so this guy got so much shit
no, it's
thrown
misdirection.
out.
Gabe is just misdirecting us.
And then of course, the Counter-Strike Global Offensive official Twitter tweeted out, "Congratulations on finding our Portal Easter egg. Thanks." And everyone's souls, the last remaining pieces of our soul, collectively died, and it was really sad.
This was fun in the moment.
It was really fun in the moment. I want to shout outs to the CSGO team. I know you guys are kicking ass with the content that you're making and putting out, but oh my god, I really hope someone got reprimanded for that. The fact that Gabe Newell CC'd in Edo McGall makes me feel like somebody got yelled at for that. You don't do that.
I wonder if there was a way they could have made it clear there was nothing else. If there was a way they could have done that.
But there are people that are still trying to solve it. I get emails from 10... Yeah, I get emails from people being like, no, that's the tweet is misdirection. I got one guy telling me that the tweet itself is a secret code.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean,
look, how many of those are just people trying to bait you?
That's true. That's true. But some people have sent me documents and stuff. Look at how much work I've put into it. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Oh man, who thought the Easter egg was a good idea? But no, it's so disappointing that Valve is at that point where it seems like there are a lot of people that work at Valve that don't really understand. They're a really hardcore fan base. But, like, seriously, what's not to understand? Don't tease us if you don't have something to show us. And please, for the love of God, have something to show us soon. It's that simple. It is that simple. You don't need to try and, like hype us up at all. We get hyped up over literally nothing all the time. So just make a game. Like, just put 15 people, make a game, you know. In the Valley of Gods might be a great game, to be completely honest, now the more I think about it. But that's a whole nother conversation. What's the next story, Jack?
On December 7th, Dota 2 updated, and there was more HLVR stuff in it.
All right, so what I want to do is we're just going to talk about all the HLVR stuff from December now. There were multiple times where HLVR had quote-unquote leaks in games. Without going into like the specific leaks, Dota 2 received its first tools update in months. Now, for those that aren't aware, when the tools of Dota 2 are updated, that's where leaks actually happen. The tools themselves being things like, you know, the development tools, the SDK. Within that update itself, within a update on December 7th, December 8th, it was late in the day. You had stuff referring to a Zen grenade, which isn't actually the first time we've heard about it, but now we know it's an item that you actually use. Item _ HLVR grenade Zen. Then you have item HLVR grenade stun rapid fire, Zen grenade to shotgun, charge clip to shotgun, rain particle effects, more stuff about the reviver stuff, missile shot down. So I want to talk about this weapon system because through official leaks, not through like my I heard from a guy kind of leaks, we know for a fact that the interactions with the weapons themselves are far more fine than just reload the weapon, point and shoot. Weapon additions. There's a smaller weapon set than something like Half-Life 2, all right? There's like 8 weapons total, and that doesn't include grenades because grenades are actually attached onto the guns themselves. I don't know if they'll let you pull a pin throw like a HE grenade, but as far as I'm aware, there are things that you can attach onto the weapons that you're wielding. Specifically in this leak, you have different grenades you can attach onto a shotgun, like the Zen grenade. But leaks continue to happen with HLVR. They've happened consistently since 2016. They have started to happen far more frequently over the last 6 months. And I mean, like 6 days later, we had more leaks. What ended up happening is up until now, most of our all of our HLVR leaks have come through 2 sources: Dota 2 updates and Steam VR updates, because both of those are Source 2 projects. So what ended up happening was Artifact obviously launched November 28th of last month. November, and there were no HLVR leaks initially. There were like 1 or 2 little small things in the initial build that launched as the beta on November 17th, excuse me. However, there was an update on December 13th, Artifact Update 1.1. Now, there were 2 major Artifact updates this month, and we'll talk about the second one a little later. However, in this update, there were a few little changes. There were some social aspects added in colorblind mode. But most importantly to me, it was huge. There were like tens of thousands of additions and subtractions in this update, period. And for something like Artifact, especially an update the size of what we got in 1.1, it made absolutely no sense for it to be this large. So what actually ended up happening, and I'm fairly certain this happened, they merged branches. I don't know why they merged branches, but they merged. They might have lifted a lot of the code wholesale from Dota 2 for the leveling system that was added in the second update that hit in December. However, because they merged branches, which I'm fairly certain they did, you have things like VR code now showing through an Artifact. Now, part of me wants to speculate that the VR code that we're seeing has something to do with a VR mode for Artifact being worked on, which would be really, really cool. I'd love to see something like that. However, through that, we also got a few new looks into HLVR. I later found out that the majority of the stuff that we found in Artifact was found in Dota 2 a long time ago, and no one documented it. I love when that happens. When it seems like a new piece of information was found, it's nowhere on the internet, and as soon as it's published, someone comes out of the woodwork and is like, well, actually, I found this like a year ago and never told anyone, so you're wrong, go to hell.
It's really great.
I love that. However, the fact that we're now seeing HLVR strings even appear, even if it is through a branch merge, in Artifact, that means that Artifact updates are now just as valuable as Dota 2 updates, as Steam VR updates, to be able to find information on future Source 2 projects. They're now merged, which is incredible. Exactly what was seen doesn't really matter. The stuff itself was very technical. There was no real gameplay evidence or anything. But the fact of the matter that we're going to be seeing more HLVR stuff come out of Artifact is really, really exciting, especially considering that, you know, the first 6 months of 2019 are make it or break it for Artifact, very much. So you're going to see consistent, large, meaty content updates for Artifact the beginning of this year. Into summer when I expect, you know, the mobile port to come out. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, do you have anything to add, or anything you want to talk about in relation to this?
Not really for HLVR, no, but I guess I got to be watching it now. So, or you'll be taking care of that.
What do you mean? Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to data mine.
Yeah. I want to see. I hope this is another thing that actually happens.
HLVR?
I say this all the time because it's HLVR. But it's another thing that, like, you know, leaks started in 2016. It's been going for 2 years. Maybe it's just like Danger Zone. It's like,
well, the difference between something like Danger Zone and HLVR is that I heard nothing about Danger Zone from people. It was all just code. HLVR, I'm hearing about all the time from people, you know, and some of the sources that I am hearing the information from have been verified through my own means, you know, and some of the stuff that there's no doubt in my mind that HLVR is a legitimate thing, right? There's no doubt in my mind that HLVR is something that is that's far more along than any other project that we don't know about inside at Valve. You know, there could be other VR games that are being developed. I'm sure there's one in Unity that's fairly far along that we don't know anything about because we have nothing to data mine for. However, HLVR is the thing that will get people to buy headsets. And Valve has a headset. That we know for a fact. So
we've seen them.
Yeah, we've seen them. So it's like when they come out like, hey, we have this 12 to 16 hour Half-Life game, this brand new Half-Life game, this long ass brand new Half-Life experience. I think a lot of people will drop that money to do that. I really do. It would really suck that the game comes out, I play it day one live stream, and I'm like, this is bad.
Well, you know, we just hope that it's not bad.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh god, this game isn't very good. All right, well, Bethesda News Network, everybody. But, you know, we got to keep positive about that kind of stuff. I'm sure there are I've heard from different sources that, you know, I've heard that there are some Half-Life veterans on the team. And, I mean, if the people that I've heard are on the team, at least the level design will be freaking great, you know?
Yeah, because those guys are all still there and they don't do anything else.
Most of the level designers are still at Valve that did Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1, you know? So there's
like you hear the programmers and writers and they leave, but the level designers, they stay.
I'm very excited for it, obviously. I know that the moment it comes out, my channel will immediately get like 40,000 new subscribers because people come out of the woodwork or whatever. Because I don't know. HLVR is obviously going to be a total nostalgia trip. I wonder if I'll cry. We talked about the Artifact stuff. Yeah, let's talk about Smissmass.
This is going to be you again because I don't play TF2.
Yeah, so Team Fortress 2 is slowing down. 2018 very much showed that. Our major update that we got this year was Scream Fortress, which usually... In 2017, we got a major update, and we also got Scream Fortress. So the big update being Scream Fortress is telling. The Saxy winners did go to Valve, and they did see the team, and they did get an answer that the team is still like 15, 16 people. They're still pushing new updates, and the Smissmass, we got no maps, we got no reskins, no festive weapons, no contracts, nothing of that nature. We got a cosmetic case, with 18 community-created cosmetics that are all holiday-themed. Some very nice stuff. And we also got some bug fixes and some medals, and everybody got a stocking stuffer like they do every year.
This person asked a good question. Have we ever gotten Smissmass maps? I don't even know.
No, but the community still creates them. I'll get to that. So... here's the thing about Team Fortress 2. It's very apparent that the TF2 team that we had in like 2015 fell apart, and likely fell apart because of Artifact. There are a lot of people on the Artifact team that were on the TF team. That's true. Brandon Reinhardt, the project manager, the project lead, was on Team Fortress 2 since 2009. Before that, you still have Jill, Eric Smith, and Dave Riller leading the head of the TF team. And by last account, which was in November that we heard this, there's about 15 people on the team still, which is interesting. There is the heavy update or whatever we end up getting as the next major update is still being developed, and we're still going to be getting them. I had a really interesting conversation with Uncle Dane, I think shortly after Scream Fortress came out, where both of us have the impression that someone like Dave Riller is never going to go anywhere. And I talked about this in the video. Dave Riller started on Half-Life. He worked a little bit on Half-Life 2, but through the majority of his time at Valve, he worked on Team Fortress Classic, Valve's Team Fortress 2 Invasion, later the retail version, and he's still on Team Fortress 2, right?
It might be the majority of his life at this point.
Yeah, and so he's not going to go anywhere. He has found his happy place in working on this game. So he's also been at Valve for so long that no one is going to tell him to stop doing what he wants to do. Period. That's just not how that works. If you've been there that long, no one's going to tell you to move. You might not get any help, but if you want to do it by yourself or with the two people that you have, then fine. That's why I think Laidlaw has like 15 novels worth of Half-Life stuff, but whatever. So they're obviously still working on something. We don't have any leaks because the actual number of even bug fix updates that we got in 2018 was the lowest by a large margin, but they're still working on stuff. That, the fact that in the Smissmass update, there was a bug fix of Funk rotating finally being usable in maps like Two Fort. This was a bug.
They didn't even fully fix it.
No, but they fixed it in specific maps. Now the clouds move in Two Fort. This was a bug that was broken in 2007, before Team Fortress 2 came out. Robin Walker broke it. The fact that they're still doing stuff like that, the fact that Jill is still doing stuff like that means that, yes, of course, they're still working on stuff. But there's no schedule. There's no timetable. They have far more financially successful things. But Team Fortress 2, it hit over 100,000 players during Smissmass. Like, every time there's an update, everybody's like, all right, time to play TF2 again. There's very much an audience for it. And I don't think that game
with Valve, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think that game will ever completely die. I always think there'll be a major update somewhere in the distance, but the time between them will get longer and longer and longer. Will we see the heavy frontline, whatever is going to end up happening with the next update this year? Yeah, I think so. I think enough time has passed. You had the entirety of 2018. So, okay, we'll talk about the Build Your Legend update artifact. Another one that Jack's not necessarily that versed on.
After this one, I'll be able to talk again.
Jack, you need to play if you want to keep on the podcast, you got to play this shit. All right.
Okay, yeah.
So the Build Your Legends update is the first real major step towards what I'm going to say is damage control. So Artifact came out in November. It peaked at like 40,000 players, and it's currently sitting at like 3,000. It isn't even in the top 100 on Steam. So some major changes need to be made. And what's really interesting is this proves that everything that Gabe Newell said during his presentation in March wasn't the case. He was wrong for many different things, because they started balancing cards. They started buying back cards. They put in a progression ladder. They put in competitive ranking. A bunch of stuff that during the initial press stuff for Artifact was said that didn't need to be done, and was the thing that differentiated Artifact from the rest of the industry. They were wrong. What's really interesting is it proves just how important a first impression truly is. Because when you talk about Artifact, everyone remembers TI-8 announcement, Artifact. Clap, 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 the Dota 2 card game. Which is, even to me, is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
It was TI-7, wasn't it? Yeah.
Was it TI? Oh, yeah, you're right.
2017.
TI-7. Sorry. But I play Artifact all the time. I stream it. I really, really like it. I have Artifact friends. I make content with other Artifact creators. The community is a mess just because of the fact that a lot of the people that were hyping up the game during its development and were in the closed beta have left, because there's obviously not an enormous amount of money to be made, right? The people that are still sticking around are keeping in the back of their minds that Valve announced a $1 million tournament for the first quarter of this year. I don't think that's happening anymore. I don't think that that's going to happen Q1 at all. We're in first quarter. We have heard nothing about it. That doesn't change the fact that the core gameplay loop of Artifact is fantastic. It is incredibly addictive. It's really rewarding. it's there's a little RNG. There's a little too much RNG for some people in like creep deployment and laning and certain cards, but the fact that they're starting to nerf and buff certain cards like Axe and Cheating Death and Drow and Gust and Kana. Did Kana get changed? I don't remember. Well, anyways, they're changing cards, right? They're willing to change. They're willing to learn from their mistakes, which is so much different than anything Valve has ever done before. There have been many times in the past where Valve listened to the community and was like, okay, yeah, everybody thinks this is a bad idea, but we're going to stick to our guns. Steam being an excellent example of that. However,
people hated Steam for years.
Oh, yeah. Keep that in mind. Yeah, people hated Steam. But Artifact is doing so poorly. Look, I want to make that known. When I say Artifact is doing poorly, I'm not trying to, like, hate the game. And I don't want this game to fail. Artifact is doing poorly, okay? There's just not many people playing it. And maybe a lot of the people currently playing it are whales. But the fact that they started nerfing and buffing cards pissed off a lot of people that were only in the game to be able to try and make money through cards and not the game itself. Oh, man, there's so much stuff, you know. So the update itself brought the progression ladder. You can level up your character and unlock packs through that. Here's the problem with that. You get like 6 XP per game. Unless you do some certain stuff, you could get some extra XP. You get 6 XP per game. A level costs like 100 some XP. I play all the time. I'm at level 4. They reduce the number of packs that you get when first buying the game to 5, and then they want you to unlock the rest of the packs through normal play. Now, in total, that means that you'll end up with 15 packs, more than you did before. However, the amount of time to be able to grind to get the last 10 packs is like, it's so long. It's so long. They need to adjust the XP. They just do. And not only that, but, you know, they're obviously trying to push this stuff out, but they are obviously doing this very, very quickly. They did not plan on putting in a progression ladder. Up until, like, when the beta came out and people were like, there's no reason to bring me back. And then they're like, oh, that's the next thing. Post-launch, we're putting that out. We first heard about the progression ladder in the week between the beta and the release in late November, and then they put it out in December. They're obviously trying to push this stuff out as quick as possible to try and, you know, bring people back as far as possible. Artifact, for all intents and purposes, is in early access. It's just not marked as such.
Because that would be bad PR.
Yeah, there's already evidence of set 2, you know, the next set of cards. We have the icon for it. We have one of the cards, Archon Investigator. Yeah, Artifact is going to have a crazy year. Whether or not you're interested in Artifact, the story of this year and whether or not they can make it or break it is going to be really, really interesting. You're going to see a lot of very quickly, a lot of turnaround on leaks. You're going to see, not leaks, updates. You're going to see a lot of updates, a lot of new interesting content. They might completely change some mechanics. They're going to do a lot. And because of that, and because of like the urgency of the thing, they might not clean and the updates as much. You know, no way in hell are they going to try and hide any content, because they don't want to spend any time that doesn't involve trying to release stuff. Artifact in 2019 is going to be one of the most interesting things I'm ever going to get to report on. And unfortunately, everybody's going to dislike it because I get so many comments that are like, fuck Artifact, dislike, and they leave. Whatever.
Well, you did something interesting. You made that video about a leak you got 2 years ago. Over 2 years ago. People who haven't watched the video yet, it's basically Tyler was told details about a version of Half-Life 3 that Valve was developing in 2013 and 2014, I think. It's sort of in that area. And like story details a little bit, and then some gameplay details, which I don't think you actually talked about. I mean, in the video you had to say it's unconfirmed, but can I say this? Like it is real, right? It is. I don't know if you can say that, but I believe it is.
You can say it if you want. I'm not going to confirm or deny what you're saying. Number one, Half-Life 3 has been attempted far more than I lead on to believe. The major versions are the ones that I talk about. 2009 being Episode 3, 2011, 2015. There was a short period of time in 2016 where they were trying to do something, but that just turned into HOVR. Of course, there were a bunch of small-ass versions where, like, 10 people that were just hired, like, let's make Half-Life 3, and then they try it, and then it fails, right? There's got to be, like, 20 or 30 of those. But those aren't the ones that get leaked. Those aren't the ones that get talked about. The major ones where like a lot of time was spent and someone gets angry because their work isn't, used, and so they leak and then get fired. I'm not going to confirm or deny if it's real, but what I can tell you is there were things that the person leaked it to me, the things that they said that had nothing to do with Half-Life, that happened. So I was told this stuff in October of 2016. And this person unloaded on me. Any question that I asked was answered. And I asked about pretty much everything. And there were some things that were said. There was some things that was said about random little projects that were being developed at Valve that eventually became something that happened. So this person might have just gotten lucky. I might just be trying to find answers in things that don't actually exist, connecting the dots in certain places that don't actually exist. However, from my perspective, I think it appears real, but I'm not. You can make your own decision on that. The piece of art that I was given is one in a set of pieces of key art that were made for this project, and unfortunately, I was only given the one piece. I was going to be given other stuff, but then the guy went silent, more than likely because he was fired. And yeah, so that's just kind of how it was. I didn't believe any of it until stuff started happening, and I was like, ooh, I was told about that. Ooh, I was told about that. And then I started talking about it about 6 months ago, and I thought it would be a good Christmas gift.
Some people say it sounds too much like a fanfic, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
I think this is a little bit of a criticism. I don't know if you described it very well. Like,
I don't think I described it well
I think
either.
Or maybe it's because it's you saying it. People are like, oh, it's like, it might be the connotation of you yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm Valve News Network, so anything I say is like obviously through the mouth of one of the biggest fans of the company that exists. However, I think I did poorly because I left a lot out.
Like if you had fleshed it out and said everything that was said.
If I said everything that I have, it would have been a hell of a lot better, but I don't want to get sued.
But I don't know. Yeah.
No, I know. They're very, very unlikely for something like that to happen, but there's stuff that I was told that I just talked about the stuff that couldn't be reused, right? Because you would need to make that game for it to make sense.
Yeah, pretty much that always happens with story elements, especially a lot of them together.
So like, I left out every bit of gameplay that I was told about. Because like that story I told you took like 4 minutes to explain, and apparently that version of the game at that point was like 4 hours. So look, I don't really care if you think it's real or not. I'm doing the best work that I can, and I waited a very long time on some very juicy information to try and verify it to the best of my ability. I don't care if you don't believe me or not. More than just the robot arm, but the robot arm is a big part of it. Yeah, obviously. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, like, Tyler, like you were probably about to say this. Tyler's not the kind of person who just runs with the leak they get.
Nope.
Like people think
I do. Yeah,
but you don't. You never do.
Yep.
You never do that.
Jack and I discuss leaks that I get all the time, and Jack, more than anybody, I mean anybody on Lever really, will know just how often this happens. The quest system and day-night cycle, I'm fairly certain, were for another project. Another version, maybe a CRPG that they're developing or something. I don't know. That'd be incredible. That's getting off topic, but I'd love to see a CRPG be made at Valve. That's completely off topic.
Half-Life RPG would be cool. Anyway.
Anything. I don't care. It would completely explain the gap. They're like, well, there's been a team of like 40 developing a CRPG for like 8 years. But yeah, so I get a lot of shit thrown at me whenever I do this kind of stuff. And to be completely honest, if I was in the position of the community, yeah, I'd throw shit at me too. I'm sick of getting on the hype train. I'm sick of hearing about stuff that's depressing. Yeah, I'm right there with you, but I'm just trying to do the best job I can. I think I've reported on like 10% of the stuff I've been told. And
just a fraction, yeah.
A very small fraction of what I have been told, because a lot of it is impossible to verify. And a large portion of what I'm told day to day is trolls. Because what happens is when the leaks become more and more popular, especially after the Half-Life 2 Aftermath stuff came out, it became a game for people to try and get me to report on fake leaks and trolls. And then after the Internet Historian did his video, it kind of became even bigger to do that. But it's fine. There were a few story beats I left out because they sound like something that will be reused in HLVR. If HLVR comes out. However, there were, you see, no, I don't want to, I've heard other stuff, but, I heard similar stuff about a similar project from a different source, but it was impossible for me to be able to link the two because just the volatile nature of Half-Life development means that two projects that sound similar could have happened 8 years apart. They just could have picked it up later. And then, of course, there's like entire games based on the Half-Life IP that start and stop just all the time. So, yeah. If I'm ever diagnosed with like a terminal disease and I like have like a short period of time to live. All right, everybody, that was the December 2018 episode of the Valve Ketchup Podcast. Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you very much for listening. As you know, I'm Tyler McVicker, and this is Valve News Network. And as always, I am joined by my podcast pal, Jonathan Ewalds, aka Jackathan.
Hi, I'm still here.
And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next month.